Hey everybody. Okay, going back to one of my favorite places for rations. Let's head back to the Russian Federation. Let's go. As we see, this is the newer design box. However, they still use the other designs just as well. You can see this is menu number 2. And I got this from the gray shop, and I was expecting it to last a little longer than it did. However, this one just expired in November of 2016, but it's still close enough for me. So you can see the other packaging on here or writing, and this is simply opened up from this side. However, there are bag versions that have tear pulls and tear notches on the bottom. Man, we're just ripping this one all up to craziness, and it's nice because it does have this inner foil lining. Well, let's pull this thing out and we'll see what we got. Alright, let's give this a pull. Nothing else in the box. However, like they said, you could use this as a water container to hold water. We got some drinks. Looks like this is a cherry drink. Peach. Of course, we have our standard crackers. And just looks like we have 2 different types. Flour and wheat-based. Let's take a look at this real quick. And this is the gentle pate, and you can see the date. So you could have one date on the box, but the stuff on the inside could still be good, like this. In this we have some minced sausage. Of course, we have the 3 spoons. And we have another, it does go that way, another beverage. This is our apple jam or jelly or spread. On these newer rations, it's kind of nice because you actually have a picture, even though the inside usually doesn't look anything like that. But this is goulash with potatoes. And try to see if I can find an expiration date on this thing. And it's stamped right on the bottom, which is kind of nice. And this one's beef meatballs, probably in a nice little sauce. See the date on that, maybe, sort of. Good old chocolate bar. Huge 20-gram packets of sugar, so there's 3 of those. These are moist towelettes. Okay, this is the stuff I had, I think, in my very first Russian review. This is like bacon fat. Literally, this stuff is designed to keep you warm in a cold environment. I've eaten this both hot and cold. It does taste better when it's warmed up. This is kind of your vegetables. It says a vegetable ragu. Usually a lot of bell peppers, maybe a little tomato in there. What we got here, this is our kasha. It's buckwheat with beef. This is definitely an acquired taste. If you grew up liking like corned beef and hash or something like that, you will most likely enjoy this. However, this is a little on the greasy side, so if that is not your thing, you might not enjoy it. But I happen to really like this stuff. It's our waterproof matches in a strike. This is kind of like a dessert. It's like an apple puree. It's really silky, smooth, and really nice. I've always enjoyed them. Here is a can of cheese. I experimented with one of these. I just wanted to heat it up just a little bit, but I forgot to pull the ring pull back just a little bit, and it ended up being on my kitchen ceiling. Brilliant, I know. Right here's our stove with some fuel tablets. The Stimmerol gum, looks like this is grape flavor. And this is our creamer. That goes along nice with our coffee. Boy, this coffee looks like it has seen better days. We're going to try it anyway because I happen to really enjoy this kind of coffee. I have 2 bags of black tea. Here's some pepper. This is our daily multivitamin. Have some salt. These are contents lists. They kind of explain what you should have with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And these are small little, this is a small packing list that shows when each thing was produced. For the mains, we have 3 water purification tablets, some napkins, and lastly a knife. Another great thing about doing these vids is I get a whole lot of feedback from people that actually have used this stuff out in the field. Now, while you have 3 mains, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have this one for breakfast, this one for lunch, this one's for dinner. In fact, what I understand is this one is used for breakfast. However, a lot of times these 2 are combined for your evening meal. And this kind of stuff, your pâtés, your cheese, this is what is used for your midday meal. Now again, if it's cold and you want a little more with your kasha, you could always have your bacon fat to help warm you up. And you could have your dessert with your evening meal, and if you wanted your ragu with breakfast, you can. It's all up to you. You get to decide how you want to eat this. And not to mention that you're going to have one of these with breakfast, 2 of these with lunch, and again, 1 of these with your evening meal. All right, let's get these in some hot water, and let's make some drinks. Take a look at this stove kit real quick. Depending on what type of ration you get, sometimes this can be in a clear bag or in a solid bag. Geez, rocket science. And the way these work, these fold up, these fold down, so that your ration stays a little away from the flame. Now, there are multiple schools of thought on how to use this. Most people who I've talked to don't actually put their ration directly on top of this because it burns the bottom of the food. What they'll do is they'll set like a small tin full of water to use it as like a double boiler for the rations. Take out one of your pellets and your matches. All right, now there's 2 schools of thought. You can take this and scrape off some of the coating and then use your match, same thing, to light off your heater. I'm not going to use this today, seeing how I'm boiling the rations. Just so I can say I've showed you these. Just a large wet nap, because you always want to keep your hands and face clean so you don't get sick out in the field. Right, one thing I really dig about this ration is the amount of drinks they add to keep you hydrated. Of course, we have the peach, cherry, and you got the raspberry. And essentially what this says, it says it's a dried concentrate, all natural, and it's a fast instant drink. Like I said, I'm going to do the peach today, and I'm only going to make one, seeing we're going to do this in one fell swoop. One thing you're going to notice, all natural doesn't mean sugar-free. There's going to be quite a bit of sugar on the bottom of this. And some of these crystals can be rather large. If you use completely cold water, it might take a little while to dissolve the bottom. So one thing that I have learned from some experienced viewers is they say just put a tiny bit of hot water down on the bottom and it will help break that concentrated dry powder down. Just let it sit for a minute and then add your cool water. See, now case in point, you can see the actual drink has incorporated, and there's still a good amount of sugar down there on the bottom. Just keep doing your little swirl thing and it'll eventually absorb in there. But let's add our remaining water. This calls for 200 ml, which is just a little over 6 ounces. And we'll give this a good mix. And now the coffee. Now you can use this creamer or milk as it is used in either your coffee or your tea or both, depending on your preference and your flavors. Take a look at that. Not too bad. Oop, there's alligator making her presence known. I don't know, man. She's heard something. She's on the prowl. For your sugar, you have to be careful because this is 20 grams of sugar, and I'm sure if you're in a cold environment, that would be just fine. Just load it up. And I'm going to use my creamer for my tea. And then this is just standard black tea. Pretty much comes in every single ration. And I get this question all the time. What's the difference between the rations in the boxes and the rations in the bags? Essentially nothing. All of the components are the same thing, whether it be in one of the flexible foil cans, in a real can, or in one of the retort type pouches. And we'll let that steep for a little bit. Okay, now the fun part, because we're going to try to cram 24 hours worth of food onto one tray. Over here we got our salt and pepper, of course, our napkins, and our moist towelettes, and this is our multivitamin. Got our knife and spoon. Check out our crackers. We have wheat-based crackers, we have flour crackers. And like I said, one of these packets is to be used for breakfast, and one packet for your dinner, and 2 of these packets for your lunch to eat with all your pâtés and your cheeses and your apple butter, all that kind of yummy goodness. Now these crackers definitely have an interesting smell to them. Not that it's bad, it's just that's just the way how they are. But you have 4 packets of crackers. Here is your jam or your apple butter. We'll open this up shortly. Our bar of chocolate. Now in those Arctic rations and the cold climate rations, you get like 5 or 6 of these things in there. I purchased one of those, but it ended up being just full of all this regular stuff like this. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to share that review with you. However, Steve has a great review with all of that stuff. And then there's some Stimmerol gum. And they're just small little briquettes of grape flavored gum. Have our cheese. Like I said, I don't think I'll ever try heating this stuff again. And it's more soft than the what is that, Australian version. So you can really dig in your cracker into that cheese. So I'll just set that right there. And we have the minced sausage. Again, this would be for lunch. And some of these, you can actually use the little tear notch or the pull tab on these. I don't recommend doing that for the mains, unless if you potentially want to wear them all about your person. Then the gentle pâté. It's nice and soft and creamy and pliable. This one is a little more dense that you have to dig into. Seeing that nice mince. And these flexible cams is exactly what I'm talking about. You're taking your chances on maintaining the integrity of this when you try to open these by the actual notch. Sometimes you're successful, sometimes not, but always like to use a good knife. That way I know I'm not going to have any problems getting these out without spilling everywhere. And there you go, there's the apple puree. I know it kind of looks not too appetizing, but it is really pleasant to taste. And then lastly, you have the vegetable ragu. And like I said, this is mainly pepper, type of bell pepper, red pepper, green pepper, carrot, all that kind of stuff that happens to be all blended together in a nice puree. And that goes really good along with your crackers, things like that. Okay, now the main event. Let's put the heated stuff down. Of course, this is like that bacon fat. Good old yummy stuff. This would be definitely one I would recommend not to open up with by hand. And you can see it's got that nice fat and it's got that nice grease in there. Probably not the healthiest thing to eat, but it actually tastes pretty decent, especially if you need this to help keep you warm on very cold days in a cold climate. Then the goulash with potatoes. I know somebody keeps saying, why don't you use like an oven mitt or a pot holder? Well, you know, sometimes you plan, sometimes you don't. So here's the goulash with potatoes. You can see it's got some carrots in there. Those will be nice and tasty. And here's the kasha with beef. It's buckwheat and beef. There is that. And all we got left is the meatballs. Like I said, beef meatballs. Crack this one open. And this one is like in a nice gravy or like a tomato based sauce. Well, let's dig in. We'll start off what I guess I would pick for breakfast. Of course, we have the kasha. It's buckwheat with little pieces of beef in there. And of course, if you wanted to, you could always add a little salt and pepper to help spice it off. To me, it really doesn't need it because it kind of has a salty flavor on its own. It's packaged in not preservatives, but like real grease. I mean, it's real food, which is always the benefit. And these small pieces of buckwheat, they do a fantastic job of like mimicking like a potato for those of us in the West that have hash. It's very tasty. If you put some hot sauce on this, man, to die for. All right, let's try our beef goulash with potatoes. And we can see we have some nice carrot bits in there. Nice juice, sauce. Generous chunks of meat. It's like a really nice potato stew. Like a roast beef kind of thing. It just melts in your mouth. And this juice and the sauce on the bottom just really gives your mouth a really nice coat. Ah, it's real good. I enjoy this very much. Then, of course, we have the meatballs. And this is why you have to mix and match all this stuff. Because ordinarily, these meatballs just would not be a meal unto themselves. You know, sometimes people would eat both of these together for one meal. But there's a beef meatball in that sauce. And it's more kind of like a mince. If you've ever had like a Chef Boyardee meatball, like spaghetti-o type meatball. It's kind of like that, except for it's not as processed. This is just literally meat that's pressed firmly into a ball, tossed in here with some of this lovely gravy and sauce. Very pleasant, very nice. Well, now the piece de resistance, which I'm sure that you were all curious about. It is this bacon fat, or pig fat. And the actual juice in here literally is straight up grease. And they use this to help keep themselves heated, kind of like how the Inuit or Eskimos do with seal fat. Let's give that a go. Yep, incredibly salty. And I'm sure if you probably mix this with your kasha, it would be a little more pleasant. I mean, I think it's all right. I've had it before, so I'm not really shocked about it. Put a little sauce on my kasha. Oh yeah, that's kind of nice. Yeah, that works. And then, of course, with all of these meals, you're supposed to take your crackers and dip them in there and take a big old bite of all of this stuff. And same thing with this yummy goodness. Toss that real quick. What else are we going to try? I'll tell you what. Let's try our peach drink. You can see in there it is pretty much all dissolved, all that sugar. Now, part of the problem with a drink with this much sugar in it is that's essentially what it tastes like. Just the slightest hint of peach. Let's try some of our pate. This is the gentle pate, and we know it because it is nice and, what's the word I'm looking for? It's soft, smooth, and creamy. However, that means this particular pate is a liver-based pate, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. Yeah, that graininess just does not do it for me. I think the only liver-based pate that I've really enjoyed, I think, came from that Croatian ration, and it had cheese in it. Let's try some of the minced sausage pate, and it's perfect for these crackers to just scoop that right out of there. See, and this is so good because the sausage almost has like a smokiness to it. It just really gives off a nice, almost sweet, a little bit of salt flavor, and it really is a major contrast to the gentle pate. A little bit of cheese on our cracker. I was able to get a good scoop. Now, speaking of that cheese, and we'll just try it. We'll see if that makes it any better. I'm telling you, that works. Cheese, like beer, pretty much makes everything taste better. What else we got? Our apple butter. I still laugh when I think of Emmy pouring this into a glass and drinking it. But hey, you know, if you don't know what's what, you do what you want to do. That stuff is good. Just snag another couple crackers out of here. And the interesting thing is, these are more like a hardtack than anything else. They're not savory at all. They don't have any salt on them. So whatever fixins you happen to dunk them into, such as your vegetable ragu, is the flavor that they are going to have. And that bell pepper really comes out and just saturates the cracker and gets all in the little nooks and crannies. Makes it taste so good. I wish I could share this with you all. And these even go good with that. I mean, the crackers are so incredibly versatile in these rations. Let's try our cup of coffee. It just has a little bit of sugar in it. That's actually good coffee. I don't know what they put in here. It's probably the cheapest thing that they can get their hands on, but it works for me. I really enjoy that kind of coffee. Now let's try some of our apple puree. They're reminiscent of like baby food if you've had it. Very soft, silky, and creamy. It has a wonderful apple flavor. Nice and sharp. Literally just pulverized apples. That is good. It's not overly sweet. You can really taste the apple in that. Then we have the tea. I put a little of that milk powder in there, or that creamer, a little bit of sugar. And that'll go good at the end of the evening with a nice little bar of chocolate to help us get through the night. Nice good dark chocolate. Holds up very well. Incredibly dense. And it just goes so good with a little bit of this too. Good stuff. Now the only really thing left is our Stimorol gum. But of course, just in case if you're curious what these tablets look like, these are a 24-hour vitamin tablet. Looks like a simple lozenge pill. And that is supposed to provide you with all of the extra vitamins and nutrients that you need to carry on so you have a balanced diet. Let's try our grape gum real quick. You get that nice candy outside, and the grape flavor just instantly hits you. Real tasty. That's good stuff. Not too bad. Well, everyone, this was a review of a Russian Federation IRP menu number 2. You can see why I'm such a fan of these, and these are awesome, and I can't wait to get some more. So, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Sa друзья!